Welcome everybody to the Sports Wars with your boys. Let me get this going too as well. So I'm Tristan Ducross. Along my side as always is my partner in crime, the one and only Sean Ducross.
It took us a little bit of time. We were supposed to be on at 1 o'clock. It's now going on 1:20, so bear with us. We had some technical issues with YouTube. Of course, with YouTube, right? Trying to get that stuff going. But we are back again with a brand new edition of the Sports Warriors.
So first up, Sean. So the question on everybody's mind is did we see fighters over the weekend take it to that next step to becoming what we classify as elite? So the first up on our agenda is going to be, well, what happened in Brazil? Brazil, UFC 212.
But it's not what happened in Brazil. It's what's going to happen in Brazil.
Right.
It hasn't even happened yet.
That's right. Fight Night 109 happened. But nonetheless, UFC 212, we get to see two fighters. One that has been classified as elite, and one that is trying to get to that next step, right? And that has to do with, we got Jose Aldo versus Max Holloway. We got what was classified at one point, a paper champ, versus a clear-cut paper champ. Which way do you see this fight ultimately going?
Before I get into which way I think this fight is going to go, you mentioned it right now. One's a paper champion, or as you said, one's a real champion. But I was just about as confused by that sentiment when I was researching this paper, because to me, they're both fake champions. I know that sounds harsh. I know that sounds like that's the wrong verbiage to use, that fake champions versus real champions, when these two gentlemen are putting their lives on the line, putting their bodies on the line to compete at the highest level. And then in this situation, it hampers them in some sense. We've been talking about interim title this, interim title that. Well, to build this as champion versus champion is a little bit ridiculous to me, because of the fact that Jose Aldo was promoted to his featherweight title due to the fact that Conor McGregor was stripped from his title. Then you got Max Holloway, who was awarded his interim title for the featherweight. And it's just like, what's going on here? He was awarded that after he defeated Anthony Pettis, who came in overweight. So if that's not a hand-me-down any more than what an interim title already is, I don't know what is. So you got to look at that side of the coin, is that you are saying this is champion versus champion, and that's how it's being billed. But when you look at it, it shouldn't be as such.
No,
you got to compete at a higher level. But then you strip it down and you take away champion versus champion. This is just a good fight, period. It's a good fight for both Jose Aldo and Max Holloway, because these two guys are superior athletes. So I don't want to discount that on any front whatsoever. These guys are very talented. You're running into a buzzsaw in Max Holloway, who has shown over and over again he deserves to be the elite. He's one of the few Hawaiians that are left that can compete at a high level
and still get the job done.
Sooner or later, if you're the UFC, you got to think that if Max Holloway walks in to UFC and beats up on Jose Aldo and makes a statement, that you almost certainly have to say, you know what, now is the time to go to Hawaii. You've been to India, you've been across the globe, wherever you want to go. You've been to, Ireland?
Right.
Or wherever they were over there. So you go that route. At some point, you've got to go to Hawaii.
Yeah, because the only thing that I see that is against Max Holloway in this fight is purely that he's in Brazil, and it's Jose Aldo's home territory. That's my concern with this, is that here again, we go into a same arena where we've had Brazilians go in there and dominate at a high record. To go into this arena, Brazilians are 4-1. when headlining events, okay? Jose Aldo headlining in the formerly known as the HSBC Arena is simply 2-0 in Brazil in this arena. So Holloway's already has the deck stacked against him. People don't think Holloway can beat Jose Aldo, even though the people close to him are 100% behind this kid. He's run off wins like it's going out of business. But Jose Aldo and Brazil, you're going to have to go in there and finish this fight in order to win. I was just going to say that.
You are fighting Jose Aldo in his hometown. You got to either, one, legitimately, undoubtedly, beat Jose Aldo for the entire fight if, in fact, it goes to the judges. If not, yeah, dude, you got to end this. You got to end this real quick, because if you don't end it, it's all over. Jose Aldo's going to be walking around with the unification titles and saying that he's the real champ.
Right. The only Brazilian that has lost was Beth Correia, who lost to Ronda Rousey. So you're sitting here, you're looking pretty when you're Jose Aldo coming into this fight. But I like the notion that here you go, you have UFC 212. Granted, it's not full of big name fighters, but you do look at the card, and you have a lot of ranked fighters on this card.
Yeah, what is it? You have something like 8 ranked fighters on the card? It's like, good Lord. That's a lot of beefed up fight.
I mean, you're looking at Jose Aldo versus Max Holloway, both ranked. You're looking at Claudia Gadelha, who is taking on Carolina, and they're both ranked. You have Vitor Belfort. Like, I'm still trying to figure out how this dude is still ranked. Like, can somebody explain to me how this guy is still ranked?
His name's Vitor Belfort. He's the phenom. That's why he's still ranked.
Nathan in the chat room says, have the judges been pretty bad in Brazil?
Not yet. I haven't seen.
They haven't been drastically bad, but I'm just saying that in order for a guy to come in like Max Holloway,
think about it like boxing.
Yeah, I think exactly. I think of it as boxing. In order to win, to beat the champ, you have to do it convincingly, right? You would think?
Absolutely. And the biggest thing that always comes back to my head that I play back every single time about the judging is that when you look at all the wins in pretty much half of the career of Michael Bisping in the UK, he was hand-fed them.
Oh, absolutely.
He didn't win some of those fights. He lost, I'd say, about half of those.
A good portion of.
But because he was in the UK, he did just enough. He was awarded the win. Not to say that Jose Aldo or this situation may happen in Brazil, but when you've got such a hungry fighter in Jose Aldo, and he's fighting for the title for unification, you may have to finish him or put on a fight that's worthy of fight fans and judges not to be skewed.
Yeah, right. You got to get that left corner turn, and that's what Max Holloway's going to have to do. Unfortunately, I just think that the deck is literally stacked against Max Holloway, against Jose Aldo in this case. And I also see that I look at Vitor Belfort being somehow ranked, and I'm thinking that this is his final fight, right?
Yeah.
He has said this is his final fight.
And he wants a Legends division.
Like, clearly that's going to work. But,
hey, it's already worked. You've got a Legends fight.
I think that...
You've got a Legends fight. Nate the Great Marquardt versus Vitor Belfort. You've got a Legends fight.
Right. But this is a battle of who's going to leave UFC and join Bellator.
Nate Marquardt.
You already have Vitor Belfort that has already signed off.
That either
win or lose, he's done. He's done in the UFC. So I'm thinking
he's going to find somewhere to fight.
Bellator will be knocking on that door for Vitor Belfort, and I think that if Nate Marquardt loses without anything, I think Nate Marquardt is also going to be going to Bellator here soon too.
It wouldn't surprise me, and Blake in the chat room over on Facebook right now brought up an interesting point. Vitor Belfort to Rising. It could be a possibility when you've got such a name in Vitor Belfort that you're going to hear him with every single promotion. You may hear him with Rising. You may hear him with Bellator. You may hear him with One. You may hear him from freaking across the globe and go to Road FC.
Right. People will be talking on the phone
Trying to get Vitor Belfort, no matter
absolutely.
what his age is or anything. It's the name value and the fact that he could go to Bellator and be a gatekeeper for these young bucks that want to make a name. He's still a name. He's still a value. May not be good, but he can still get the job done.
Somehow he's still ranked.
Exactly.
So,
but you flip the coin, and it's like watching mirrors. In that sense, is that you don't know from one fight to the next which Vitor Belfort you're going to get or which Nate Marquardt you're going to get.
Right.
Because Nate the Great Marquardt, seemingly, he'll come and show up and blast you in the face. But then you'll see Nate Marquardt that looks like Mr. Huggy Bear. And you're wondering, how is this guy still fighting? If Nate comes in and does what he's been doing in the last 3 fights, he's going to put an end to Vitor Belfort relatively quickly. Right. But then again, you've got Vitor Belfort in his last fight.
And I'm sure he doesn't want to go out on his shield.
It showed that he still got that quick strike.
Yeah, because without a doubt, Sean, Vitor Belfort does not want to go out on his shield. He does not want his final fight in the UFC to be a disgrace. He's not Roy Nelson. And we'll get to him later on in the show about him jumping across the bow. We got a guy named Emmett Glenn from Ireland. What's up, my dude? Welcome to the show. So, again, when we start seeing all these guys, all these old veterans, we always say that you got to know when to step away and when enough's enough.
So, I just want to touch on something. Blake, so if he's going to Rising, if he stands a shot at going to Rising because of Pride rules due to testing, then by all means, I'll give you that one.
Take TRT. Go on steroids. Run off a couple wins in Rising.
Get yoked up. Get your ass back. And get looking like the Vitor Belfort of old.
The 9 out of 10 dad body can go away for a little while, and he can rejuvenate his career in
Pride.
In Rising, Pride, whatever you want to call it.
So it would be great for him. I mean, that would be probably the best move then.
Yeah, because he can't take steroids in Bellator, although I kind of... a little bit of touchy.
So what's a little bit touchy is how the fight fans are going to respond to the fact that, again, there's talks going forward about, well, if Claudia Gadelha comes in and defeats Carolina, do we see a JJ versus Gadelha 3? Is it really worth the time and effort to see these fight, or is it getting to showing how weak the women's division
is? See, that's all interesting because, again, we said this before about the weak division, regardless of what people say. The bantamweight division was a joke and a half when Ronda Rousey was there. Let's be real, okay? It was just rinse and repeat. And that's what we're seeing in the strawweight division. Because you ain't going to beat Joanna Jacek because her stand-up is so incredible that even when you push the fight and you get into her face, you saw what happens. We always say evolving a fight game plan. If your first plan does not work, how do you adapt in the fight? Joanna did exactly that. Claudia, again, is possibly going to get another opportunity to get into a title fight. But what does this say about the strawweight division? Because we're thinking about another possibility, third fight.
Yeah, but if you were talking about Carolina and you wanted to talk about the other side, I mean, our buddy Skippy Cohen from MMA My House would be stoked about this one. Because Carolina, I'll try to pronounce her name, but I'll butcher it, so I'm just calling Carolina. Everybody knows her, Carolina K.
Kowalowicz, this is what I'm going with.
Is from Poland.
Yeah.
KSW. That's one of the promotions our boy Skippy Cohen has told us to keep an eye on.
Dude, and they just had an incredible card, too.
Because they have a lot of good fighters coming out of there. Well, she ran through the elite of elite when it came to upper echelon European talent. She ran through them. She's 10-1. She was Europe's top star in the women's era up there in KSW. She's a good grappler. So you're putting basically two of the same people against each other who have similar styles, who've been around the block. If anybody can beat Claudia, it's going to be Carolina. And if you're a betting fan, somebody looking on the outside, Tristan, you're almost looking at, well, you know what? Let's see Carolina versus JJ. Let's get a little bit of fresh blood. Let's not see Gaudelia at 3. Let's look at this other aspect and look at, she could potentially lose. But who would have thought that these two fighters are 0-3 against JJ already?
Right. That's what I'm saying. Rinse and repeat. And we got a question that's being thrown at our way since we're on the women's division. Will Cyborg hold a UFC belt? Again, we got the 145 belt being held hostage because she doesn't want to face Cyborg because of steroids. So, again, we're sitting here and we're going to talk about Cyborg, about whether or not she's going to ever hold a UFC title. Well, we gotta start looking at these fighters that are afraid of fighting Cyborg. Like, you're the champion. You got a girl that has literally ran through every single organization, every single champion there ever has been, every single women fighter at 145, period. Regardless of steroids, non-steroids, she should get her due. Like, you should not be holding divisions hostage at this day and age in the UFC, in Bellator, in boxing. It doesn't matter. In combat sports, you're the champ. Shut up. Put the title on the line. Let's go.
Take the fight.
Yeah.
And Emmett, I agree. I mean, KSW, from what I've seen, a little bit of it, could be better. I like some of the fights. I've never been a big fan from the little bit that I've watched, except for I do know that they have some very good, talented fighters over there. But the big first thing that came to my mind when you said they let strongman fight, yeah, go ask Pujanowski how MMA's treating him since doing strongman on ESPN. Man, when I saw that guy, that's where he went, I was like, well, now. Okay.
KSW have some interesting matchups. Like, I'm okay with some freak shows, and they got some freak shows that make you think, though. Like, Pujanowski, like...
What, like the serial killer or whichever one? The masked murderer looking guy?
Right, yeah.
Where they had basically the entire SWAT team in Poland try to take him down during a press conference?
I mean, some of the stuff they do, though, is incredible. They just put on a show in a big, huge stadium and sold it out. So...
Okay, and to not get sidetracked, thanks, Emmett, for that one.
But good questions.
But to stay on the UFC 212 and the aspect approach about what they're doing, the other guy you can't look past is on the undercard. And that's Rafael Sensao versus Marlon Morales from
WSOF fame.
We've seen fighters fall. We've seen that collapse of some fighters trying to transition from other promotions to the UFC and falling face first. The one most notably happening at UFC Fight Night 109 that we'll touch on here right after the break. But Marlon is making his UFC debut. He has 18 wins underneath his belt. He has 17 via KOs, 6-5 submissions. This guy's a finisher and a former world champion for a reason. And when you look at that, well, he gets Rafael Sensao,
right,
who is 24-5 in the UFC, or in MMA for that matter.
Right, and you're talking about something that you're looking at on the undercard? Dude, I want to see the new phenom, and I'm calling him the new phenom. The guy that will simply change the way that people are going to look at this. And that is the next Vitor Belfort. His name is Paulo.
Try to get this one right. I dare you.
Jared Papazian in the chat room. Dude, I hope you know who I'm talking about. But his name is Paulo Borchachina. Chahina, like a hyena, is going to be the next future phenom out of Brazil.
Because isn't he, 9-0?
Yes, 9-0.
All finishes, I think?
Dominant finish in his UFC debut. Destroyed McClellan. This kid is not a guy that you should sleep on. Paulo. Remember his name. Okay? Just remember that his last name is like hyena. If anybody knows how to pronounce his name, please hit me up.
So we can go ahead and correct it next week?
See, okay, Jared Papazian knows exactly who I'm talking about. See? Even he says that people are saying that he's the next Vitor. Dude, this kid is built like a rock. Hands that are just unbelievable.
But is he on TRT like Vitor?
That could be questionable because he is from Brazil.
Because if you're already comparing this kid to Vitor Belfort, well, when you compare him to Vitor, what comes with comparing him to Vitor?
Always TRT. But, I mean, dude, this kid...
Just saying.
I saw one fight in the UFC. I've done YouTube research, and all I can think of is looking at this kid and thinking that this could be the next phenom. And I think that if he has his head on right, this kid is as legit as they come. And people are looking at the UFC to create new stars. This could be one.
Well, and that's what happened at UFC 109. Did they create a new star?
I totally agree, Jared Papazian. And we'll come right back to touch on some more of these comments that are in the chat room with your boys, the New Cross Brothers, the Sports Warriors. We do this every Wednesday. We might stick at this time.
Because everybody is checking.
Right? So we'll be right back. Sit tight. Go grab an energy drink, a beer. I don't care. We got more Combat Sports Talk.
Sean and Tristan Ducross, the Sports Warriors. You can check us out on YouTube, The Hotspot Show, as well as www.ducrossbrothers.com. Check us out every Wednesday.
All right, everybody. We are back. We are the Sports Warriors. I'm Tristan Ducross. Alongside, as always, is my brother, my partner in crime, the one and only
Sean Ducross. Hey, guys. Thank you for joining us today and tonight.
Check it out. We also got a new banner, a new setup, new look. Hopefully you guys enjoy it and like it since we're back. But now we need to talk about that.
You know what was interesting though, Tristan,
What?
earlier is that we didn't touch on this with everybody talking in the chat room. Was that Lacey joined the chat room a few minutes ago and said that she loves the energy, how animated we are. So thank you for the comment. It's
right?
great.
Thank you, Lacey.
Like changing up the game a little bit,
Right? A little bit different.
But that's what Earl Spence Jr. did this weekend. I mean, we briefly mentioned it on last week's show. If you didn't get a chance, go back and check us last week, and you'll see that we briefly touched on it. I didn't even know you were going to touch on that. I had no idea you were going to talk about Earl Spence Jr. It was one of those things that it just was spontaneous, and it came up in that moment, and I told you that people need to watch Earl Spence Jr.
Yeah.
And the sense is that this guy has the it factor, the quality you will look for that next future star.
That elite player.
And what I told you is it'll come down to what Kell Brook version we see.
And also, what Earl Spence were we going to get? Were we going to get a guy that was mentally prepared, mentally focused to take it to that next level and drive through everything to get to the later rounds? And what did he do?
He ended up putting Kell Brook.
In what round?
11.
11th round.
We said he was going to get knocked out.
Yes, but I said on the show last week, you could go back, is that psychologically, was he built to go further in the game? And he proved that with a good boxer standing right in front of him, he was able to establish his game plan from the minute go all the way down to the 11th round.
These two guys brought the house down for much of the first half of the fight.
Oh.
Then it became Earl Spence Jr.'s show. Working the body, working the jab, showing how much raw power this kid has. And from all the fights I've seen this kid fight, from the first PBC fight that I saw him on, I looked at you and said, dude,
This guy's
watch this kid.
Oh, right.
He's going to be something special. And when you look at what he did to Kell Brook in front of 27,000 fans, you know who he is. And the thing that stood out to me is, folks, he's only been a pro for 5 years.
I just want to say that Fight World just shared our video, so much appreciated. Get her name out there. Thank you to everybody that's joined it. Emmett Glenn, dude, yes. That dude is a freak. I saw him on a YouTube video.
The guy that he's talking about is Daniel Dubois.
Yes. 19-year-old. This kid, for a heavyweight, for a 19-year-old kid, I always look for somebody that has established their boxing skill, their boxing technique, and not just a wild thrower. And that's Dubois. You can't take it away from him. But that's exactly what we're talking about with Earl Spence Jr.
If you give boxing some time, there will be some rising stars. And it's all about positioning and how you put them in the best position to succeed. And Earl Spence Jr. is that next breed of animal. Just like when the next breed of animal that comes up in my mind is Chris Eubanks Jr.
Oh,
he's the next breed of that animal that you've got to watch for that next turn. But if you're building up boxing and you want to take them to that next level, okay, yes, you've got Triple G and you've got Canelo coming up. Okay, that's all fine and dandy. But want to know what one fight that stands out that will make more money in my eyes than those two is simply who he called out. Earl Spence Jr. called out for a unification title shot against Keith Thurman.
Not only did he call out Keith Thurman, Sean, he called out Manny Pacquiao. This is a guy that went on a public rant, went on a public tirade, and said that he was going to go to England. He was going to take that title from Kell Brook
in England
and bring it back to the USA. Then he said that he was going to call out 2 fighters, most notably world champions or former world champions, and he is going to take them out.
And he's doing it one by one.
He called out Keith Thurman first.
And here's why I like this fight, okay? Keith Thurman and Earl Spence Jr. will both stand in the pocket and unleash holy hell. They will fight. They will fight for at least the first 5 rounds of pure chaos. And then you'll start to see systematic domination by either Keith Thurman or Earl Banks. I was going to say Earl Banks because I'm looking at Eubanks. But Earl Spence Jr., you'll see those two battle it out. But here's what's interesting is that, well, if this fight happens for the WBA and the WBC title, Tristan, where can it take place? Showtime? Or better yet, if he's calling out Keith Thurman, Mr. Money himself, and I'll call him Money because people say Keith Thurman doesn't sell fights. Keith Thurman is not a big name. Keith Thurman will never draw. Okay? So let me say this.
Break down numbers right here.
If Keith Thurman can't sell a fight, if Keith Thurman cannot promote a fight, why is it that his fight against Sean Porter on prime time on PBC did 3.1 million viewers? If he can't sell a fight, how come his Danny Garcia fight drew 5.1? And Danny Garcia fight was okay. So if you look at this, why not do Earl Spence Jr. versus Keith Thurman for a unification title shot and put it all on the line?
All on the line. Let's establish boxing right now. Let's push that envelope.
And put it on PBC.
Muay Thai Authority, thank you for sharing our video. Let's keep this rocking and rolling. Blake Stevenson in the chat room says Thurman's a bigger draw than Crawford. He's been doing great numbers. Oh, absolutely. Hands down. Like, you can't... People... Dude, think about this, okay? Headline reads, Keith one-time Thurman versus Earl the Truth Spence Jr. One time versus the Truth.
That's a great name and a great headline to begin with.
You can push this and sell this so many different ways that it would make money. It's incredible to see what they are going to be doing and what they can accomplish. And then you look at, well, let's just rewind real quick. Kell Brook took a beating in this by Junior. What you do not do is mess with your eyes. You don't. He broke his eye socket, his right eye socket, in the Golovkin fight.
Broke his left orbital bone in the Earl Spence fight. To the point that he took a knee in the 11th round because he said no mas.
And it's funny because people are talking mad junk on Kell Brook for taking a knee in that fight.
But the punishment he took for 11 rounds, I applaud for to me. That takes a lot.
Because he fought till the end. Like, you can't take as much
Tristan,
damage as he did.
That takes a lot of guts, a lot of your own manhood to say no mas and drop down to one knee and say, you know what? I can't do it anymore. The punishment, the beating is just too much. I give Kell Brook that.
Dude,
but at some point, if you're messing with both of your eyes,
enough's enough.
You got to think the end is near for Kell Brook. He showed his toughness. He showed what a warrior he is and why he was the IBF welterweight champion.
But don't knock the man for taking a knee in the Earl Spence fight because he did what he had to do to save his own skin.
Right?
Because if he fought any longer and went to that 12th round, what would have happened to his eye completely? He had a detached retina in his right eye. He said it was starting to feel the same in the left. Like, don't mess with this. Do not mess with this.
If you're going to come back and you want to still fight, then at some point, take a little bit of time off.
Right.
Take some time away. Like, I mean, if Lucien Boutte can take time away from fighting for basically a year and go back and then come back and be able to fight at a high level.
If Rory McDonald could take 2 years off from a busted nose and a busted face, I think you need to ultimately do that.
If you still want to fight, just take some time away.
Some time off, yeah.
Just
absolutely.
take some time away. Regroup. Rejuvenate. Show your body that it needs to relax. It needs to heal again. Because if you come back again, your eyes are one, if not both, will eventually be busted up again.
And you can't survive like that. You can't. You want to see your wife. You want to see your kids. Take your health a little bit seriously, and let's think long term about this. But in the meantime, Sean, we are going to take another break, and we're going to come back strong and finish and just go hard. Finish out this show with some impact stuff. But dude, we are the one-stop shop for all combat sports, from MMA, Muay Thai to boxing. All the new viewers that are tuning into the Sports Warriors, I'm Tristan Ducross, alongside my brother,
Sean Ducross. You can check us out at www.ducrossbrothers.com.
Real talk, no fluff, real opinions. That's the only way we know how to do this. We bring it 110% to you fans.
Nathan, Lacey, Emmett, Blake, everybody in the chat room, thank you guys for joining us today, and thank you for the kind words about the show.
But, Sean, people are now jumping ship from the UFC to Bellator. We got the wasteland known as the light heavyweight division of the UFC, and it just simply got another body. Another body just was taken into the wasteland. Well, we'll be right back.
You are listening to Sean and Tristan Ducross, the Sports Warriors. You can check us out on YouTube, The Hotspot Show, as well as www.ducrossbrothers.com. Check us out every Wednesday.
All right, so quick break. We are the Sports Warriors. You can check out our website at ducrossbrothers.com. Follow us on Twitter at the Ducross Bros. You can also add us on Facebook, and we can talk combat sports all day. Just add Tristan Ducross or Sean Ducross or to both of us. Doesn't matter. We do this every single Wednesday. Probably going to be at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time as the new time.
Because, I mean, it's been a great
return, right? Great return. Great return. But, Sean, so the wasteland known as the light heavyweight division, UFC Fight Night 109 happened, and quite frankly, we saw Alexander Gustafsson probably put on the best technically sound striking against Glover Teixeira. And I must say that I was pleasantly surprised with the stand-up and the amount of abuse that Glover took and just attempted to kept taking the shots. Impressive to say none of the least. But when you're looking at it, Glover Teixeira now falls to the bottom of the pit in the wasteland known as the light heavyweight division, the 205 in the UFC. He ain't coming back. He, like quicksand, just sucked them all up to his neck. He's done in this. He's just now a glorified gatekeeper. Oh, Roberto Villa, the uppercuts? Are you kidding me? How many of them were there? 3, 4, and he just went, "Oh, I'm not gonna block them. What are you talking about? I'm just gonna take it on the chin and keep coming until, well, he was ultimately knocked out." Gustafsson needed this fight as bad as Glover needed this fight. Gustafsson needed to prove that he belonged at the top of the 205 in the weak 205 because there's nobody outside of DC and John Jones
right now. Absolutely not. It's like you said. It's a wasteland. It's where you rinse and repeat right now, like the strawweight in the women's division. It's just one of those things that continuously revolves. And Gustafsson, with his win over Teixeira, puts him at the top, puts him in line for another title shot. But if you want to just say, you know what, throw it away, throw it off into Never Never Land, there's a guy, again, I apologize because you know us, slightly horrible with names that are foreign to us. But Ozdemir, hopefully I got that, or I'll just call him simply O. Light heavyweight.
Yes.
Top contender.
Dude, he took on Misha Cirkunov? If somebody can please get a little hook on phonics in the chat room and just like phonetically spell that guy's name out, much appreciated. But Misha,
just call him Misha. We're fine with Misha. They know Misha,
right? But Misha, here was a guy that everybody was talking about that he was the next guy. Yeah, that they didn't want to throw to the woods, but they wanted to give him a little bit of a bigger build. And they wanted him to continue to push forward. Here's a guy that you thought, well, here's a guy that's going to be the next guy in 205. Dude got knocked out in 28 seconds. Wasteland, take it away. Another dude that doesn't seem to get it. Another guy. 28 seconds, you got knocked out. And Volkan was the guy that took on Ovince St. Preux on short notice and beat him.
Yeah, so when you look at it and you see that fight, he's what I have. And here's the interesting thing is that when I was out this morning with my wife, I looked at her and looked at my phone and saw that I got an update about an upcoming fight.
Cirkunov. Thank you. Misha Cirkunov. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So when you look at it and you see...
Yes, Blake.
But when you look at what Volkan did in this fight and what I had next for him, I was like, well, the only fight that makes some sense for this is Jimmy Manuwa. Put him in a title eliminator fight against Jimmy.
Yes.
And then want to know what happened? Get the update this morning. UFC 214, Volkan versus Jimmy.
Right?
For a potential top 10 fight.
I have it in my notes too. 2-0 in his last 2 fights. In the division looking for somebody to stand up and rise. I'm thinking a good, excellent fight would be Jimmy. And then, oh, what? No! They make the fight. It's the only thing that makes sense.
And when you've got a guy like Volkan that's rising to the top as quickly as he is and putting on fantastic finishes, it makes sense. It makes sense as to why you're going to put him in a top 10 fight.
Yeah, and you're looking for, at this point, Sean, you're looking for rising stars in the UFC. You need somebody to stand up and make it. Guys in this chat room with Muay Thai Authority.
Wow, thank you for joining us, Muay Thai Authority.
Right? Is talking about the new signing in Saki. Dude was a world-class Muay Thai kickboxer, and he announced that he was signing with the UFC on a video where he stood inside of a cage and took off his shirt like he's from the WWE and had UFC that he signed with them. If he continues to showcase his talents as a kickboxer, Saki, I don't want to be involved in a fight with him.
When you're looking at the fact that this guy's 33 years old, he has an 83-12 record. The guy is a world-renowned kickboxing artist with 59 knockouts. That a couple notable wins come across against Tyrone Spong, Melvin Manoff, and Ray Cefa.
And he
beat Tyrone Spong twice.
Right, and something that is being brought up is that reminded him of Chris Jericho joining the WWE. See, Dude, Muay Thai, we're there. That's exactly what I thought was
He was
Saki
just
did
missing
it.
the musical background from Chris Jericho.
Right? Break the walls down! Sorry.
See, that would have been perfect in the ripping off the shirt.
Right?
Or going Hulk Hogan and telling people to eat their vitamins.
Take their vitamins, right? But you look at Saki. Saki's going to be a dangerous guy in the UFC. But you listed off his...
But I agree, though, with them in the chat room,
Yeah,
is that you can't put him against a grappler. He will lose unless he progresses in his ability to evolve in MMA.
Absolutely.
The last time he fought MMA was in 2004, and he lost to James Zikic. So he lost to him in his first ever fighting underneath MMA rules. So you've got to give him some stand-up
Emmett,
working
you are
progress.
right. Emmett, you are right. That's exactly what happened. But you need hope in the UFC right now. You need hope.
You need that other person that's going to stand out and sell fights while Conor McGregor's overdoing his own thing.
Right.
So if this guy can come in and be vocal and entertaining like he was when he ripped his shirt off to announcing him joining the UFC, maybe he could sell a heavyweight fight. Maybe he could be intriguing to that next era of fighters. And being that he is already a guy of big stature that has a good following, he can go ahead and maybe progress at a higher rate than everybody else. But they've got to baby step him.
Oh, absolutely they do.
They've got to put him with somebody that's going to stand up with him.
Yeah, you need to have a stylistic matchup between him, kind of almost like a...
Alistair Overeem
I was just going to say that.
versus Saki.
You want to see the Clash of the Titans?
Almost single-handedly the same type of fighter.
That would be like every Muay Thai or kickboxing fan that knows those two guys would literally pay to see that.
I wouldn't disagree with that one.
You know what you're getting out of that. I'm not a huge Alistair Overeem fan since he's been off the roids. But as a guy that you can't take his accolades away from him and what he's been able to accomplish. Just like Barry Bonds, you can't do it.
Can't do it, won't do it. Roger Clemens, can't do it, won't do it.
It's not breaking a bat and throwing it at somebody.
Okay, let's go Mike Piazza.
But when you look at these two fighters, that is a fight I would pay for.
I think anybody would pay to see that fight. And anybody that tells me not, even if Alistair Overeem's not on steroids or not.
Or not the fighter that he used to be.
See, they fought before in kickboxing.
Yeah.
But I would like to see this fight in the UFC ring. Put that fight in there and show the fans that haven't been given an opportunity to see these two fight before. It'd be great to see what they can bring now. And if you're looking a way to give Saki that opportunity to establish himself in MMA, why not do it this way? We've seen Schilling fail in this era. We've seen him go from glory to MMA and seamlessly fail. Because of the fact that he's fought guys that are either better pure strikers than he is.
We've also seen Melvin Manoff go up and down in his career, going from kickboxing to this. Scott Coker's the mad scientist about, well, if he's a kickboxer, you face a kickboxer. You face a stand-up guy. We saw that with Joe Schilling, that if you step out of that realm, you get destroyed. But I just like Saki going to the UFC because I think it gives them another alternate guy that could put on exciting fights.
Yeah, but there's a lot of kickboxers right now that you could seemingly say, well, why not go to the UFC? Why not go to Bellator? So to see that he makes that jump, I mean, I'm just wondering when or if we're ever going to see Tyrone Spong ever come back. I know he's doing kickboxing. Now he's doing boxing.
Right.
So maybe he'll never come back. But he was one of those guys that stood out to me going up through the MMA channels and getting a chance to meet individuals that he was one of the first guys that I was like, this guy had everything.
Had everything that
and
you
then
look for in a fight.
freak injuries happened, derailed his career. It just left you wondering and wanting a little bit more for his future. But much like wanting a little bit more, you tend to wonder what's going on with Marcion Held. If Marcion Held's career is just about done as quickly as it started. Because now he is 0-3 in the UFC. He got beat again and he got knocked out. What's left for Marcion Held, who was once classified as a very strong ground guy, and he gets clipped in the head and knocked out when he tried to attempt to roll?
Blake, yes, that's true. About Saki, he fought through a tournament, broke his arm, and still kept going. So, unlike a lot of fighters, that dude is a tough guy through and through. Just kind of like what Big Country is. You know, Big Country jumped ship from the UFC to Bellator. Contract's over, signs with Bellator. People like it, people hate it. He's a name.
People hate it for every time somebody from the UFC jumps ships to Bellator. That's exactly what happened. So when you see that and say, oh, Roy Nelson jumped ship. Well, here's the pros and cons to this. Roy Nelson is on his way out. But Roy Nelson is still a name, still a tough face. And I say tough face because a guy can take punishment like no other. Going to Bellator in a weak heavyweight division where you're still looking to give somebody an opportunity at a title shot. We still have no heavyweight title shot, a champion in Bellator.
Hey.
You have Bobby Lashley, you have Chet Congo, Matt Michon,
Fedor Emelianenko.
Now you add Roy Nelson in that mix.
And now
you're just stirring that pot about, well, maybe we're starting to build up the heavyweight division. Maybe we're starting to put a little bit more names there.
Ready to give the title or a title shot to a boring Chet Congo with the name like Nightmare.
And he's not
like
really a nightmare.
Right. The most scary thing about Chet Congo is the fact that his Titantron turns off and candles light up. That's about the scariest thing about Chet Congo as a fighter. Like, this dude is 6'5", over 250 pounds, and he fights like a 205er, scared.
Yeah, so, but he's got the name, and to me, you'd almost have to put him in the heavyweight title, especially with the runs that he's gone on right now.
By default, you have to put him.
Good or bad or indifferent, whichever way you want to look at it. Chet Congo needs to be in that mix, in that talk for that potential vacant heavyweight title shot. So why not put like Bobby Lashley against a Roy Nelson?
Right.
See if Roy Nelson can stop a beast of a takedown artist of a Bobby Lashley. Add another name to Bobby Lashley.
Okay.
Continue to push him up the rankings.
How about this? Okay. So Bellator back in the day was known for their tournaments, right?
Yeah.
Let's have a one night only special, and let's have a heavyweight tournament.
And then you best be getting on that phone and calling up King Mo, and King Mo will eat some Twinkies and some ho-hos and puff up and go,
let's go call Rumble.
I'm in that tournament.
Right? Let's go call Rumble, bring him out of retirement. Or let's just bring in more fighters, and let's have a heavyweight tournament, and finally put the heavyweight title that it's been on the back burner since they stripped the title, and it's been vacant for the last several years. Let's make history.
I'd be down. Use Ryzen and Bellator in the relationship to cross-promote that tournament. That'd be interesting to me, and I think all the fight fans out there would be interested in seeing that cross-promotion happen again for a one night only.
John, who wouldn't want to see a Bobby Lashley versus a Fedor Emelianenko? Who wouldn't want to see a Bobby Lashley versus a Roy Nelson?
I just think people want to see Bobby Lashley fight other guys just to see how real and legitimate he is, and that he's not just one of those guys that's there because his name is Bobby Lashley. I mean, I've seen a lot of Bobby Lashley's fights. He's one of the strongest, most physically imposing fighters I think I've ever seen. And the ability that he could tell you to your face, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to punch you in the face. And then as soon as the bell starts, he's quickly shooting in, taking you down, and just beating you to a pulp. There's something unique about this guy. But he's got to at some point figure out, is he a wrestler or is he a fighter? Is he an entertainer or is he going to do MMA? Because if he's not going to do MMA, stop saying you're MMA. Just go do what you're doing in Impact Wrestling, stay there. Don't bother giving fight fans something interesting to look at and say, dude, if this guy ever puts full-time work in, this guy's
Imagine how good he will be.
This guy will be better than Brock Lesnar. This guy will be better than everybody else.
Bobby Lashley puts in half the time.
And does and finishes fights more willingly than freaking Brock Lesnar did. At least he's not afraid to get hit because he never gets hit.
Right. We're not talking about Alberto Del Rio attempting to fight MMA. We're not talking about Brock Lesnar's, whatever you want to call his career in the UFC. I just think Bobby Lashley, if you full-time fighter, he's a scary dude.
He is. And speaking about scary dude, is that LFA 13 comes into Los Angeles.
Yep.
Would love to go, but unfortunately we can't because he's working. But we also want to take this time to say, Michael Chiavello, we send our condolences. We send our time out to you. And thank you for being the great person that you are.
Yep.
And it's been a pleasure and an honor to get to know you and speak to you at several events that we've covered through the years with Scott Kent and Lion Fight, getting a chance to have a round table and talk about Muay Thai and how nobody talks about Muay Thai.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you for everything that you've done. Thank you for your uniqueness and ability to call a fight.
And standing by your boys, the sports warriors, and do appreciate it.
And your Aussie accent and your twang to everything. It's been great. It's been a pleasure to listen to everything that you do.
And I just got to do one shout out to Michael Chiavello. The last time you'll probably hear it in LA on the Millender versus Holland fight is good night, Irene.
That's going to be one of the sad. That's going to be sad for a lot of people that know Michael Chiavello, and it would be interesting to see how he keeps it together when he says "Good night, Irene." But Millender versus Holland is the main event. Both of them are out of the central area. In Millender is out of San Bernardino, fighting out of Anaheim.
Yeah.
He is 2-2 in Bellator, but since then he's ran off 3 fights, making his debut. But Holland is an interesting fighter. He is 9-2, won his last 5 wins via back-to-back KOs. You know, this one is very interesting and intriguing to see that he has won all of his fights via stoppages. It'd be interesting to see how this fight ends. I've got Holland stopping the fight in the second round.
I'm going Holland too. As much as I like Millender, I think this ends quickly and it goes to Holland's way. Off topic, not really off topic. We'll finish our show with this from Emmett in the chat room. Is that Bellator in Europe, their numbers aren't doing great because of that 1 hour delay. Dude, we're on the West Coast and
it's like a 5-hour delay.
Right.
The fights air here at 5 o'clock, and then we don't get it till 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock at night. So, yes, the numbers do affect to a certain degree, no question about that. I have literally tried to talk to everybody about we need a live Bellator event on TV at like 5 or 6 o'clock and say, let's see how the numbers do. Let's see what the numbers do. Because the Rory McDonald and Paul Daly fight drew over 700,000 viewers on a delay. The numbers drastically increased on DVR. So let's... I don't know if it's a Spike deal with Viacom.
No, because of the fact that if you go to DirecTV, Spike TV and Bellator air at 5 o'clock
That's true.
on DirecTV. It's only like your cable providers of Frontier, Cox, or wherever else you may be in this world of Time Warner. But all those guys don't air it. But if you have satellite, you get it not on delay. That's not fair to everybody else. No. So
I would love to get all those people that say hashtag spoilers.
Right? Or me, when I'm at work, it's like, can't look.
Right? Can't look.
Turn off my Bellator app. Make sure I'm not getting any text messages. Shut off my phone. Like, that's what I have to do in order to not see what's going on. And then when I'm watching, it's like, oh no, what happened?
Right.
So, that goes without said. But one thing I do want to say again about LFA 13, watch for a guy named Alex Reyes.
Yes.
0-2 when he started his professional career, 12-0 since. The guy has ran off 8 first-round knockouts, 2 rear naked chokes, 2 triangle chokes for his 12 wins. The guy's a savage. He's the brother of Dominic Reyes. If you don't know who they are, go ahead. Check them out.
Right.
Alex Reyes is the next future. In LA, don't be surprised if Dana White is in there watching this fight.
Scouting somebody from LFA.
Just saying.
It's going to happen. But in the meantime, thank you to everybody that tuned in and made this an incredible show. Blake, Emmett, Nathan, Neftali, Lacey, whoever else is out there listening.
Muay Thai Authority, thank you.
Right? Thank you guys for tuning in. Until next time, we are out. We'll be back Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Same bad channel. I'm Tristan Ducross. This is my brother.
So follow us, Twitter, at the Ducross Bros.
He's Sean Ducross, by the way.
Yeah, you already know that. I think I announced that like 5 times.
www.ducrossbrothers.com. Sean and Tristan Ducross on Facebook, Twitter, at the Ducross Bros. Love talking to all you guys. Until next time.